Earth webinar on getting data off the Globe website. And so hi everybody. I'll do a little intro here. Let's see. Find my PowerPoint. All right, here we are, visualizing globe data. So just a reminder of our program, Mission Earth. It's a partnership between the University of Toledo, WestEd, Tennessee State, Boston University, University of California, Berkeley, NASA Langley, and then the Globe Implementation Office. And the idea is to spread Globe. We like to do projects. So tonight it's just me and then Marcy Burns. And Marcy's a teacher at Norwalk Intermediate School. And I think I've known Marcy for 15 years, maybe, something like that. So I want to just remind everybody, you guys have been reminded of this, I guess, a lot, but that we have the Globe Virtual Science Symposium. I got this changed this week. Projects are due April 3rd, so students should get their projects together for that. And then the Regional Science Symposia are listed here. In the Midwest, we're going to be at Purdue University, and we're hoping to get a whole bunch of people from Ohio and Michigan to go to Indiana. And so you can see in your region where your symposia is and the dates. And then lastly, the annual meeting is in Connecticut this year for Globe. And it's a great opportunity for students to get to meet students and scientists and teachers from all over the world and then present their research. So I'd encourage you, if you can, to get kids to go. Actually, I think, Melody, you went to one in Calgary many years ago that I didn't go to. You might have gone to an annual meeting before I did, which was interesting. Do want to remind everybody that we have NASA flying an aircraft over Toledo, possibly Sunday or Monday. And Dorothy Hall did a webinar with students on Tuesday, the NASA scientists. Of course, then I saw her on Thursday on the Weather Channel, and I was like, woo, cool. You know, we got to talk to her first about it. Interestingly, because it's been so warm, the plane is going to go into the UP of Michigan to find snow and ice. It really there isn't much down here in the lower peninsula of Michigan and in Ohio. But they're going to fly over Ohio for the urban heat island effect. And we put in to have 3 transects over Toledo, and then to extend one of them to go over Norwalk and Akron. So we'll see, hopefully they'll do all those transects, but you know, it's an aircraft and they'll have to make possibly decisions on the fly. Actually, they're flying, yeah. But anyway, we don't know exactly what they'll end up doing. I hope that they'll do what we want them to do. All right, so I'll end my sharing. Let's see. Uh-oh. I'm confused. Stop sharing. Okay, so there you go. All right, so Marcy, if you could talk now. Marcy's going to present what she does with her students.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. Was that successful?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. I've been a Globe teacher since 2006, and our school is a 5th and 6th grade building, and it's located 12 miles south of Cedar Point in Norwalk. And so here are my students making a little map for you to show you exactly where we are. And we started out small with different protocols for Globe, and then every year it seems to grow a little bit more. So currently, my students are doing water quality data, including macroinvertebrates, and we have 2 different locations along Norwalk Creek, and our creek flows through our city from our reservoir system until it meets up with the Huron River on the west end of our city. And we've been taking water quality data since in a fall and a spring sampling since 2011. And then we also do surface temperature collecting data along with the cloud protocols since 2006. And then we've had the minimum maximum air temperature instrument since 2011. The instrument shelter is currently in my backyard because we had such vandalism issues at our school. We're right on Main Street, and within a day that it was up, it was vandalized. So we moved it to my backyard, which works quite well. I usually collect all the data and then the kids put it into the book. And then a new one this year is one of my students who was a 5th grader last year and wanted to do her 6th grade science fair project using Globe. And so she's investigating soil on our playground, and you can see that we don't have any grass on our playground, it's all mud. So she wanted to figure out why grass doesn't grow. And so she's in the process of working with the Soil and Water Conservation District in our county, and he is helping her do some of the testing and showing her how to kind of being a mentor for her. So we have lots of data every week, and it's really easy to enter into the Globe database, but it tends to be a little tricky to get out. So the visualization tool is, it's evolved in the last few years, and every few months they revise it and it gets a little bit easier to use. And so you can get to it in 2 ways. Through the visualization tab right there on the main Globe webpage, or under Globe data tab along the top. You can also get to it that way. But it takes some practice. It's a little quirky, and to find exactly what you want, it takes a little time to get used to it. But the kids seem to do better than me. And so a couple different ways that we've used the visualization tool. One example is my students wanted to know what the actual cloud cover was in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania on Groundhog's Day. So they used the visualization tool, and this is the map that comes up when you click on the tool. And over here they pick the layer, a cloud cover layer, and then one of the choices you have for the location is to draw a rectangle or a shape. And so they drew a shape, if you can see that green shaded area, they were able to draw that shape, including our school and then where Gobbler's Knob is, somewhere around the northeastern part of the Pennsylvania. So then all the cloud cover schools popped up, and so they're able to click on those circles, and they were able to see what kind of cloud cover data was available for Groundhog's Day. Another way that we use the Globe webpage is to actually retrieve our own data, and we just contribute a lot of data, so it's really kind of nice to just get a good picture of what our data really looks like. So on our Globe webpage, there's a link to the air temperature backyard instrument shelter. When you click on that, you can get your data from the visualization tool, and you can set date ranges, you can do minimum, maximum, and then you can put minimum and maximum on one graph. And so every other month, the kids will go in and redo our graph, our line graph, so they can see the patterns in the weather that we've had since 2011. And you can see the winters of 2014 and 15 were way colder than 2011 and 2017, 16, 17. So it's really good for them to be able to see their data. Another thing I like to do is, kids never believe you that weather's different in other places. So, and they also don't believe me when I tell them the seasons are opposite in the Southern Hemisphere. So just pulling up the visualization tool, this was just something I quickly did for Valentine's Day. And the kids were able to see that it's warmer in South America just by that one day's data. And in Europe, Northern Europe, it's a lot colder. So that was kind of nice for the kids to see. And then they saw this one point right here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and found out that that's really Missouri. So that was kind of fun. They thought that Missouri was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The visualization tool.
So Marcy, they really did think that the Missouri was in the middle of the Atlantic?
Yeah, they have a really hard time knowing the difference between states and counties and cities. And so anyway, then we went on the map and found Missouri was really in the United States. So that was kind of good. Okay. They have a hard time with geography.
So basically that point, did you ask them why it was there in the ocean?
And they were, after some discussion, they were able to figure out that, the GPS coordinates were off, because we did a lot of the GPS stuff in the fall to start the school year. And they thought that was kind of interesting that happened.
Yeah, so that point is 0, 0. That's
right
where
there.
0 latitude and 0 longitude are right there.
There we go. Also use the visualization tool to get data for some of the students' research projects. We've contributed research projects to all the virtual student conferences so far for Globe, starting back in 2012, I think, was the first one. So this group of students wanted to compare macroinvertebrates. Do we have the same kind in Ohio as in another place in the world? So they went on the visualization tool and found a school in Argentina that was about the same latitude below the equator that we are above the equator. And so they compared the data, and they put their data then into a chart and found out that they were similar kinds of macroinvertebrates. And then this group actually compared our own data. So not only can you compare data from other schools, but you can also compare data with your own data. So this school used the water quality data from the Norwalk Creek over several seasons. And then another group decided they were going to use all their surface temperature data and then compared it with another school, used the visualization tool to find a school in a different latitude area that had similar dates for their data. And they were able, fifth graders were able to find that easily on the visualization tool. And then this is another Creek project that students collaborated with our city engineer and also the NOAA historical weather data and climate data, along with their own creek data to investigate why we have increases of precipitation and how that affects areas. And then before the visualization tool is what it is now, it was really kind of difficult to get good data. So off the Globe webpage. So here students use some graphs and through using Excel, which is kind of tough for kids to use. So the visualization tool for Globe really works slick. And in summary, the Globe visualization tool keeps getting easier for students to use. They're always updating it and changing things. Some things are good, and some things are kind of, you got to get used to. Students are better at using it than teachers. And I really believe that participating in field campaigns and using Globe data helps students to feel connected to the rest of the world, even though they don't know where Missouri is. And my students are always happy to collaborate with your students.
Well, they would learn where Missouri is, though, through the project, so that's cool.
They would, yeah. I mean, they know where places in Estonia are and South America, but they don't know their own states, which is kind of interesting.
There's a child's head floating in the ocean.
Yes, it is.
What's the story behind the picture?
We did an Earth Day video a couple years ago, and the kids it's a big cutout. It's about 5 feet in diameter cutout of the Earth. And so the kids use that in their video, and then every once in a while kids will find that in the corner of the classroom and walk around with it, so we snap a few pictures.
Well, that's great. So do we have, so Marcy, you could stop sharing your screen, and then you may get some questions from the audience.
Okay. More than anything else, report.
Yeah, well, thanks all. Very good.
So is someone asking a question to Marcy, because it was real quiet, I couldn't tell?
I was logging to a different GoTo meeting. Oh, okay, so sorry about that.
I don't know.
On the phone.
Well, since
But I do have a question for you, Marcy. This is Sarah.
Okay.
So your students' projects look really advanced for 5th graders. They're fantastic. My question for you is how big of a role did you play in each of their projects?
It was a bit of a transition, bumps along the way with the new staff. But the fact is that it's just been a great decision, because the energy of the team is boom all the way back up. And the girls or the ladies or them, they are like, and they're so happy and they get along.
Yeah,
so
Jan,
well.
can you mute the people?
So I think that was a good thing to do.
I am
always
trying
unpleasant
to.
and always difficult, but I think that we handled it really well, and with all the bells and whistles of termination and
Well, the
all that. And
person
we were
that's
generous
talking, I
with
don't
severance
have
package, which
a
we
mute
did
button on them.
offer.
Really?
Then that was going to bring up a for-cause termination, and then that was going to be, and I didn't want to put the energy of that such a nasty ending on the team, because then that would
I
have been.
can't mute them either.
Well, there we go.
All right, maybe. Sorry, guys.
The question had to do with the sophistication of the projects. The kids' work, they start working really early. So they work in teams, and they do put a lot of effort into it. We don't use just class time for it. I have kids that we have an after-school Globe session, and we meet once a week. As it gets closer to the due date for projects, then we meet as often as possible. I do help the kids in, well, of course, teaching them how to collect data and using the visualization tool, but they do the writing themselves and all designing the charts and the graphs, and the part that we get assistance from the high school kids for is actually typing up the projects and putting them on the project boards. But the kids do all the writing and the revising in that respect. But we do get help from the high school kids.
Yeah, I can imagine that for 5th graders, typing is tough. I know with my own children, when they're doing their science fair or any projects, typing could take hours.
It does, and they don't know how to do spaces or anything.
Right.
So
Right. That's a good use of the high school students to help out. One thing that Maureen Wickenheiser at the St. Patrick's School, she also had her kids start in October on their project. So start early, and she does it in school, but once a week they have a project day. So that's a nice approach. Do you have other questions for Marcy? So Svetlana? Yeah, there you go.
Hi, Marcy. I met you a couple of years ago and fell in love with your kids, who were just incredible. And will vouch for the fact that they know what they're talking about. I was very impressed. Do you actually take them through a process of learning how to use the visualization tools, or is that just kind of flow naturally? We work with high school students, and so our time is a little bit more compartmentalized. We don't sort of just have open-ended time, unfortunately. And so just wondering how much training is required, or do you have cheat sheets that you could share, or any tools that would facilitate the kids downloading and understanding graphs and things like that?
I think the visualization tool is really easy to do. I take a couple kids who are really good at computer skills, and I'll train them. And then they, in turn, will be the group leaders for the computer stuff. And so it's pretty amazing to watch these 10 and 11-year-olds actually manipulate the visualization. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll at the beginning of the year, we'll learn the protocols, we'll learn how to enter data into the Globe web page, learn how to use the visualization tool. But then I'll take those kids that are really good at it to be the team leaders.
And do you incorporate, sorry, just one little follow-up, do you incorporate thing of like what kind of graph would you want to use to compare these two kinds of data?
Absolutely, and that's part of our science curriculum as well, and our math program at our school is to be able to identify the best kind of graph or chart or visualization that would be appropriate for the data.
Other questions? All right, so that's our dramatic pause. So I was going to do a little more on the visualization and follow up on what Marcy presented. Marcy did a great job with having a PowerPoint prepared. I wanted to have a PowerPoint prepared as well. I sort of do. I don't. Oh, so I'm going to go back to Melody's asking a question for you, Marcy. Do your students do the virtual conference, the virtual symposia?
Yes, they've done it every year since 2012.
Cool. And is there anything different about the virtual symposium than, say, the Globe Regional Symposia or any of the other science fairs?
The virtual conference is a blast because the kids enter their project. Some years the kids will make a video, a PowerPoint with spoken video, and upload the video for the presentation. Last year they were pressed for time, so they just submitted up their poster, laid out their poster kinds of things on a PowerPoint and entered that. And so it really depends, and they just really like checking back with after the projects are in the judging process, and they get to respond to these questions of these people they don't know but they think are their friends.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that with the virtual symposia, and I think that's going to happen again this year, and you can correct me if you know better, but the students submit their project, and then scientists, I was one of them last year, review the projects and ask the students questions for kind of like more detail. And then the students can respond to those questions, and the Globe website has a form for that interaction, which is pretty cool. So I think that adds a nice touch to kind of give it more people, connection. And they're connecting with the scientists. Now this year, the rubric for the symposia this virtual was reduced in size, because what kind of happened last year was for the judging, the scientists, it took them too long to do each project, and then some scientists end up doing a lot of them. So there was a group that reduced the number of topics that were being judged or are going to be judged. So that should help out the scientists a little bit. Okay, so let me share my screen. Hopefully I'll be showing you guys something new. I think it's great that 5th graders are using the visualization system. I was one of the first people to use this type of stuff, and I kept breaking it. So that's one of those things. Now, if you look at the Globe website, I do want to point out a few things. They have Globe on social here, keeps ticking off. And there's blogs. There's a blog entry about the Globe Observer app roundup for this past week. So I think that's pretty cool. I've been posting blogs here and there. At some point, I'm going to post a blog about what my students did for El Nino. So you'll be able to see it there. There's also news. Let's see, you got NASA Langley. I know this webinar showed up here earlier. So the data, there's 2 ways to go about getting data. One is the visualization system. You can click on it here. And the other is under Globe Data. It's retrieve data. So let's look at the visualization system. And Marcy was teaching me things when I was watching, like drawing the polygon. I kind of ignored that. I didn't remember that I had it. But if you want to add a layer, just click on Add. This is similar to other GIS, like ArcGIS. You push the plus button, the Add button, and you get all the protocols here. There's a few protocols that are still not on the system, and I think they're getting kind of prioritized to be put on the system. So let's see. I always like to go to surface temperature because, well, that's the protocol I developed and proposed. So this is the surface temperature observations from today. I thought it was pretty good, 13 sites entered data today. Taiwan, they've been doing a lot that's kind of warm there. They were cold a couple weeks ago, and then we have, I think that's Croatia, I believe. And then a bunch around us because we have this flight coming up, so the schools are getting ready for the NASA aircraft to fly over. Saudi Arabia does a bunch. Now, you can choose different dates. So just click on this on the left-hand side, and the dates come up. I can choose the 7th of February. Kind of looks the same. Oh, there you go. And there's a little bit of lag, and my kids do the gaming online, and if there's lag, it's a problem because then they get killed, I suppose, in their games. In December, we had the virtual or the science surface temperature field campaign, urban heat island. And so here's December 8th. You can see the different observations. Actually, it was actually cold in this area then. You can add different data layers. I want to look at snowpack. Add that layer. For some reason, basically in the U.S., we're not entering snowpack data, or somehow it's not being recorded. It's being recorded a lot in Europe. So I think that's interesting. You can turn off a layer just by clicking on the arrow or the check mark. If you want to see more about it, click on the name and view a layer in the table. That's always good to do. You can see the actual data. You have your latitude, longitude, elevation, the date and time it was observed. Looks like it's being binned to 5 minutes. Well, maybe not. There's a 24. Location, site name. And you could just download that as a comma delimited file, CSV, which then goes into Excel. All right, let's some other things. If you click on the name, it can come up as a KMZ file. You can bring it in. Of course, you can delete the layer, just cancel to close it. Let's see, I forgot. The dots used to do something. Yes, it doesn't. You can also contour it. Hang on a second. No, I know. I just do that. Okay. I'm going to contour it. There's not enough data, I guess, to contour. It did a little bit up here in that Finland. All right, so let's say adding the data. If you want to see what schools are involved, let's see, you can zoom in. Here's the leg I was talking about. So you got points floating in the ocean, but they're not really. They'll be drawn again in the right location. I like that drawing tool. It's under filter. You can also filter by elevation, location. So under location site, you can do draw on the map, you do latitude, longitude range. You can pick a teacher if you wanted. So just looking at these values, so if you click on the value, and Marcy showed you this, it should show the school. Hide the thing here. Let's see here. All right, here's Diana's school. It looked like it got really cold there right before December 8th. Okay, and you can do data counts for this site. So it's on the football soccer field. It's their 3rd atmosphere site. Gives you the average surface temperature, condition of snow. All right, but also for that site, there's other observations. You could change it to clouds if you wanted. I'll change that to clouds. You can see the cloud. Oh, here you go. Cloud observations. % cloudiness. All right. You can change it to the aerosols that they did. There you go. All right. So this should be aerosol optical thickness. Oh, please wait. This is how I break it. See, I do all kinds of stuff and it breaks. I don't have the patience for it, right? All right, so let's switch to something else. Relative humidity, let's see if that works. All right, relative humidity. You can look at the data in a table, or you can add it to the plot. So let's do a relative humidity. I'll add it to the plot. And then if I scroll down multi-site plots, I'm just gonna do plot all. All right, so it shows that data. Now, if I add another data layer, let's see. Let's do surface temperature. All right, so it shows me the surface temperature data. Add to the plot. Might take a second here. Maybe it is here already. Relative humidity, surface temperature. Okay. Let's see if I do a single line plot. Let's see if I do plot off, that works. So it does. So I put it on the same plot. I'm not sure I can draw any conclusions from this, but the surface temperature dropped a lot. And then the relative humidity kind of bounced around. So I wouldn't necessarily look at relative humidity versus surface temperature, but that's how you could put 2 data sets on one plot. All right, I'm gonna go back out for a second. And I always like to figure out, well, which school has the most data? So if I click on data counts, I click there. First thing it's gonna do is plot all the schools in the world for snowpack and surface temperature. And these are all the schools that ever made those observations. So let's just do snowpack, for instance. I'm interested in snow. Now, one of the things you don't know is when did it take those observations, because they started in 1999. And well, I could change it today. So I'm going to change that through today. I don't think it'll really change anything. If I zoom out and see what the world looks like. All right. So you can see a lot in the United States, Europe, Middle East. Interesting, like there's very few in Canada. Percent struck me when I was looking at this. there aren't a lot of people living in Canada, so maybe that's one of the reasons there's sparse there. Russia, not a lot here. Africa, not a lot. Of course, there's not a lot of snow in Africa, so you wouldn't expect it to be there, right? So let's zoom in. Okay, so let's see. Anyway, I can choose then maybe more recent. So I'm interested in, you know, snow observations from 2017. So I'll type in the date here from to today. And, you know, strangely, there's only 2 schools in the U.S. that have entered snowpack depth. And then in Europe, there's a bunch. And that's a good question for maybe the Globe office. Why is that? And then the surface temperature data, I clicked on that. And we have a number of schools that have done surface temperature observations since January 1st. So always happy about that. It's great. All right, so basically that's the visualization system. Like I said, if you want to get the data out, I kind of showed you how to do that by clicking on one school. Any questions about this? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Yeah, so Sarah's putting the majority of Canada's population lies along the U.S. border. Yeah, exactly, from Toronto down to Windsor. So it's there. If I zoomed in, you would see observations in Canada along the U.S. border. Okay, so no questions? No, so far, what I was showing you there were all schools. If I showed the cloud data, it would show the citizen science data, because that's the only observation right now, it's citizen science. So, yeah, a second. We'll go back, we'll show you the cloud data. So if I add cloud observations, you'll notice there's a lot more sites. All right, so this is how citizen science works. And again, very few observations in Canada. If we zoom in, surface temperature plotted, waiting for clouds. One of the challenges of the data retrieval in Globe has been over the years is it kind of kills the internet in your school. So if your school has bad internet, it's maybe tough. So here we are seeing along the, right here down the, I forgot what it's called, the part of Ontario where lots of people live. But for the Globe Cloud app, there's data for more locations. China was submitting data, but I wonder if that's been taken off because they're not a Globe country, which is interesting. All right. Do we have any, there's some questions here. Someone could break in and ask me questions if there's questions on the chat. For some reason I can't see. Oh, the phosphorus data. Yeah, there's a SurveyMonkey link for entering phosphorus data. I can share with you guys. Okay.
So Kevin?
Yep.
I wanted to know if I had 2 different schools, can I visualize both of those schools, bring up their data and graph it on the visualization tool, or is it better to download it as a CSV and work with it that way?
Well, you can graph it on the visualization tool, so I'll show you how to do that. But I do like to extract the data and put in Excel and then plot it that way. I mean, that's my preferred method.
What's easier for the kids?
So we already had some observations of, oh yeah, so I'm gonna get rid of this relative humidity from Crestwood and let me add, oh yeah, I gotta go back over to observation, or well, anyway, I could probably do it from this. Let's see, let's get Roswell Kent involved here. Maybe I can't do it. Hang on a second. We go back to measurements. All right. So here's Marcy's school. All right, so then I can add their site, click on it, go over here to the tool, plot all, and see if the relative, we'll have to see if the relative humidity messed up. Nope, there you go. So there's Crestwood versus Main Street. Crestwood is blue, Main Street is red. So, can you guess which one is further north?
The blue school.
Oh, wow, it looked cooler than me. So I had a response for, see, blue looks cooler than, oh yeah, I asked for further north, didn't I?
Yes.
Well, you're right.
Funny how that works.
Thanks, Melody. Yeah, so Crestwood's further north, cooler, and then Main Street here is warmer. So yeah, a quick way to do it. You can extract the data, of course, and then let's see here. That's a good way to stack plots. These are stacking and stuff like that. Let me show you the other tool for a few minutes, and then not sure many of you probably use it. This is more reminiscent of the old tool. So go to globe data, retrieve data, and then enter the data access tool, and they call it DAT at globe. We have Gavin Atkinson here. A picture of him. I'm actually standing just to the right of this picture when it was taken. On the left, we have you can select your protocol, date range. So these are the ways you can constrain your data. Data count range. You can choose a site, specifically a state or country. Proximity to a water body. How cool is that? A specific teacher, elevation range, longitude, etc. So one of the, that's a good question. Usually I go to protocols first. What ends up happening, I get all the values. So say I do, what, air temperature is going to kill it. Let's see. Let's do soil moisture. Add that protocol. So it's going to give us all the soil moisture observation sites. There's 173 soil moisture sites in the database. Then I can choose date range, and started in 2014. So let me do 2017 till today. And there should be less. All right, 30 sites have entered data for soil moisture this year. And you could go just get the data right from that. So obtain measurement data. I'm not so interested in the summary data. I guess you could do that. You get the latitude, longitude, and elevation. But you certainly could sort by elevation and latitude and longitude. But I'll just click on obtain the data. And then you do download measurement data. There's 275 measurements. It takes a while. It counts down for you. Almost ready. All right. So here, I'll check the chat box while it's almost ready. For some reason, oh, I know. Yeah, I need to do that. No. For some reason, I can't see the chat box. Oh, there it is. Fix that. We're talking about the phosphorus. All right, so here's the trouble. Oh, there it is. All right, great. Then you click on download. It comes as a zip file. Now my computer automatically opens it, and then I can open it in Excel. So here's the data in Excel for soil moisture. And our actual data is right here. Let's see, well, here's some data too. One of the challenges is what soil moisture are we talking about? Bulk density. For some reason, there's a lot of null values. So there's not as much data as we thought, are there? Okay. And this soil moisture, this is what I'd probably get. Volumetric soil moisture. So it's essentially a percent. And some of the percents are very high. But it's a decimal representing a percent. Okay. Let's see if we could find Shumate. Scrolling down, they have a lot of observations. Let's expand this to find the schools. University of Toledo, yay, there we are. So here our soil moisture has been ranging from 22% went up to 31. I'm guessing there's a rainstorm in there, a couple of them anyway, and then it's been drying down again. So anyway, this is how you can get some data into Excel. I guess I'll ask, are there any questions about that?
Don't you have the kids do any of that?
So is someone asking a question?
Yeah, I was just asking if you actually have the kids do any of that themselves.
Well, I guess that's a good question for the teachers online. I think, Marcy, you were saying that you do have the kids do that. I think everybody's video is turned off.
We don't do the soil moisture. We don't have the equipment to do that yet. The one student is just taking fertility, what is it? Just nutrients in the soil and how much water the soil can hold.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll work up to soil moisture maybe next year.
Okay.
I was just wondering about the facility with Excel. I mean, we can talk to our own teachers about that. I was just wondering if there were any tips about the kids actually downloading the data and manipulating it in Excel in any way.
Diana, do you have any suggestions?
We do use Excel quite a bit. The students know by the time they get to my class are pretty proficient with Excel, so they do a pretty good job. But it is overwhelming sometimes for them to download the whole data set. So what I have them do is eliminate different parts of it and then just analyze certain sections, and they seem much better with that.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the big things about doing any research project is that you need to eliminate the data that you don't want. And so, like when I just downloaded this soil moisture data, there were not a lot of null values. So I would go through and, delete those values first before trying to plot it. One of the best plots to do is an XY plot. Now, those are somewhat hard to do because you have to have data on the same days and then be able to match it and do XY. Or it may not have to be exactly the same day, but I don't know. Does anybody have experience trying to do XY plots with kids? Do you guys know what I mean by XY? Or is that a question that I should answer?
Kevin, do you mean like a scatter plot?
Right, a scatter plot. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I try to have my kids do with a lot of data. Although they don't really learn about scatter plots till they're like an 8th grade or older. So
right.
Sometimes I'm the one introducing that concept to them. we talk about scatter plots and trends when we talk about what's trending on Twitter or what's trending in, you know, media, so that they get an idea of what that means.
Right. Yeah, so the easy plot is the plot over time. And that was kind of what I was showing you guys today. It's harder to do an XY plot, which would be like, you know, the data from Main Street versus the data from Crestwood, and having the same days, and then you could tell which one would be cooler by an XY plot or scatter plot. And that's how you do a correlation. Are you looking at, well, how does soil moisture relate to surface temperature? You do a correlation by doing XY plot.
Right.
So I opened a rabbit hole with that. Because it's not easy to do in Excel. Well, globe data in Excel are not set up typically to do that, to match up, you know, different variables so well.
Dr. C, can we talk real quickly about the phosphorus conversation that was going on in the chat?
Yeah, can you bring me up to speed on it?
Yeah, sure. So I gave them the link for the SurveyMonkey, but I think part of the concern is that unlike the Globe website, the SurveyMonkey link is just collecting that data. So there's no way for the teachers or the students to obtain all of the phosphorus data that's been entered, correct?
Well, we could share it, but truthfully, there hasn't been that much data entered.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So that was what Debbie had a question. Is it worth even collecting it since the students can't find it?
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope it's worth collecting.
Yeah.
It's actually very, very worthwhile to collect phosphorus data, and someone has to start. So. Oh. All right.
Kevin, is there any chance of maybe connecting with TMACOG in the Toledo area with their data? I know they do phosphorus.
Well, we are connected with Kari Gerwin, who's running the Student Watershed Watch from TMACOG. I guess I was going to cross that bridge when we start getting data put on the, you know, the server, because I was kind of, and then the inside, if you're not part of this discussion, the whole phosphorus thing was something we were doing in the Toledo area because of the water crisis with Lake Erie having algae blooms. And so it's not one of the Globe protocols right now. And basically I set up a SurveyMonkey, but it only received 2 data points. And then there are other schools collecting phosphorus data, but still it's not a lot. I would like, if we could get some data on that SurveyMonkey, that'd be really helpful. And then move from there. So I wasn't going to do anything until anybody did something, you know, enter some data, then we can do something with it, right?
Kevin, why isn't the phosphorus protocol and data collection on the Globe website? Do you think you could talk to your friends at Globe and ask if it can go on there? Because maybe if it's up there, then we'll get more data from all over the world, and we could be comparing Lake Erie to other places. Yeah,
well, there's actually a long history to which protocols are on the Globe website, and some had to do actually with political reasons. And so phosphorus is not one of the protocols. And I guess that was a choice that was made a long time ago. Now, to get a protocol put on the Globe website is actually fairly difficult. You know, this year mosquitoes was added, and you kind of need to have someone, a scientist. Okay, so I could do this, right? But you know, you had to have a scientist to back it up. You have to fill out a lot of forms, and it takes about a year for that to happen. again, I really would like to see more schools doing it, you know, and we do have a link. It's pretty easy to put the data at that link. So we actually need to have some kind of a movement. You know, people have to do it. So Globe won't build the data entry and visualization system unless they know that people are going to take the observation. Students are going to do it. They have to. It's fairly rigorous to prove that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Chemets snap kits are pretty easy. I've been having students do that, and I apologize, I don't have my data up, but I have it all in a notebook. I just need to share it, but we have it. But I have a question too, kind of what Debbie was asking. If phosphorus is not on the Globe site, asking if it's worth it to have projects on it. Like, of course that data collection is important, but I think maybe similar to Debbie's question, like, Kevin, you know, I have a student collecting information about bacteria in water. So that's not a Globe protocol,
Right.
but is that something, I think what maybe Debbie means perhaps when she says, is it worth it? It's like, well, you know, do we enter those projects in the virtual Globe Science Fair if they're not Globe protocols?
Well, if you do phosphorus, it's unlikely that you would just do it by itself. You'd probably do turbidity or water temperature. And so you could enter those data, the turbidity, water temperature, onto the Globe website, and that would count as a Globe project. If you go to the annual meeting, and anybody that's been there will tell you that many of the projects, they might have one type of observation from Globe, and then they'll have something else. You know, there's groups in Thailand that do all kinds of agricultural projects, you know, growing certain plants. So they look at soil moisture, but they do a lot with the plants, you know, measuring the plants and things like that. So anyway, that's my suggestion, is that just, you know, you have other data you're taking already.
So if she's collecting water temperature, air temperature, and bacteria, because she has 2 of the 3 that are protocols, it makes sense to still enter it. Even though the bacteria is her focus.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And then, you know, she would present how air temperature and water temperature affect bacteria in the water, you know, and she would have some nice XY plots, scatter plots.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Well, we've come to a close. It actually flew by. I want to thank everybody for calling in tonight. And let's see, I'll show our next webinar. So this should be exciting. Our next webinar is going to be in 2 weeks, March 8th, 8 o'clock again, Eastern time. And we're going to be doing work with ArcGIS. How do you visualize your data in ArcGIS? And then using like ArcGIS Online, and Grant Wilson, along with Sarah Merziak, are going to both present. And they're actually both graduate students at the University of Toledo. And then here's our Facebook page. If you have any questions, ask Janet. Oh yeah, and thank you to our funders. NN16AC54A. Actually, NASA. So stop sharing. All right. So I wanted to thank everybody for calling in. Have a good night.